agenda that I will immediately implement when we become the 47th President of the United States. And it's we, not I. I will totally obliterate the deep state. It's a sick, bad group of people. I will say no to 87,000 IRS agents who want to take your money and destroy your lives. I will end the disaster known as Bidenomics, which shall henceforth be defined as inflation, submission, and failure. We will turn around our economy very, very quickly. I will cancel every Biden regulation that's harming Alabama workers and workers all over the United States. One of the first things that I will do to help the great people of Alabama is to approve a 6-lane I-65 from Huntsville to Mobile. I heard Huntsville to Mobile, and I heard, some of your great congressmen who I introduced all of your congressmen, everyone have endorsed me. It's such an honor, but I said, what can I do for this great state? You can make a 6-laner. Does everyone agree that's a big deal? Yeah? Okay. We'll get that done on the first day, okay? First day. I'll bring down the cost of energy, and we will become energy independent and even energy dominant, just as we were 3 years ago. We were going to supply all of the energy to Europe. Oil and gas, we were going to make so much money, then we were going to start paying down debt. You ever look at the balance sheet of Saudi Arabia? We have more oil than they do. We have more oil than Russia has. I got ANWR approved. No president could get that done. Ronald Reagan tried. They all tried. I got it done. The first thing that Biden did is he ended it. ANWR in Alaska, probably the largest site for oil anywhere in the world. I will reverse every one of Biden's globalist economic betrayals to once again put America first and put Alabama first. We're going to put Alabama first where it should be. And unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who voted to gut Medicare, can you believe that? And also voted 3 times to decimate a thing called Social Security, and also to raise the retirement age on Social Security all the way up to 70. I mean, you earned that. There are many other things we can cut. We can do a lot of things that you won't be feeling, but you can't play with Social Security and Medicare. But we will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. Not going to touch it. And you saw that because we didn't touch it. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office shortly after we win the presidency, because we are going to win it, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I know them both very well. They will settle. Would have never, ever happened. It will be done very, very quickly. I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent World War III. And don't kid yourself, we're a lot closer to it than you think. A lot closer. And that would be a war like no other, because we wouldn't have army tanks going back and forth shooting. They have nuclear. The levels of power are not to be believed. To stop the destruction of our wealth, I will impose a border tariff on all foreign-made goods. You just want to sell into our country, you're going to have to pay for that. That's a great privilege that we do that. We get hurt so badly with trade. I made so many great trade deals, including with Japan and South Korea, and by the way, China, for our farmers and manufacturers, $50 billion a year. I don't even talk about that because of what they did with COVID. I will also pass what we call the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. In other words, if China or any other country makes us pay a 100% or 200% tariff, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff of 100% or 200% right back. And one of 2 things will happen. They'll end their tariff, which in most cases will happen, or we'll take it a lot of money, and so will they, but we'll take it a lot of money. Can you imagine? They charge us 100% tariffs and 200% tariffs, and for the same product, we charge them nothing. And we were all set to get that done and approved, and then COVID came in, and we had other things to do. But we're going to get that done. Reciprocal. It's got to be reciprocal. We will gain total independence from China, and I will hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for unleashing the China virus upon the world. You know, it's estimated they can't pay it. Nobody can pay it. $60 trillion in damages, and the death, the millions and millions of people all over the world, the damage they did. And I always said it came from the Wuhan lab, and it did. It came from the Wuhan lab. They said the other day, Trump was right about that one, too. Trump was right about everything, actually. I will immediately terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration. What's happening on our border? What's happening on our border is unthinkable. We had the safest border in the history of our country, and now we have the most unsafe border, I think, anywhere in the world. There's never been anything like it. No third world country would have a border like that. They'd fight people with sticks and stones if they had to. Under Biden, other countries are emptying out their prisons, insane asylums, and mental institutions and dumping everyone, including terrorists, into the United States of America. Many terrorists are coming in. Their prisons are emptying out all over the world, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we consider more or less neighbors. Guatemala. No, Guatemala's rough, very small prison population. El Salvador, very small. Mexico, very small. They're emptying them out. There was a psychiatrist who's been at a certain South American country for many years running a big mental institution, and they showed him sitting in the institution reading a newspaper, and they were interviewing him. He said, how are you doing? He said, I have nothing to do. We had many, many mental patients, people very, very sick, very ill, and they're no longer here. And the reporter said, where are they? They've all been brought into the United States of America. They've been dumped into the United States of America. How stupid are we? How stupid are we? And they're emptying out those institutions, and they're emptying out all of their prisons and all of their jails, and they're coming in here, and we're going to get them out of this country fast. We're going to get them out so fast. It's a very bad situation. We're going to be paying a price for that for a long time. Who could want that? Who could want it? Who could want it? They are either very stupid, which they're not. You can't cheat on elections like that and be stupid. They're either very stupid, or, in the alternative, they truly hate our country. And I believe they truly hate our country. When I'm back in the White House, following the Eisenhower model, we will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. And we have no choice. Some people won't like that. We have no choice. No country can bear this, and I believe the real number is $15 million. I looked, 15 million people. I looked the other day on television, 2 days ago. I saw thousands and thousands and thousands of people on Madison Avenue in New York. They are illegal immigrants. And I looked and I said, this city cannot survive like that. But all of our cities are going through it. And even before that, the Democrats are doing such a bad job of running our cities. They're running them into the ground. The crime is setting records. We have numbers that are up 250 and 300% from just a few years ago. The laws are being broken. The prosecutors go after Trump. Let's go after Trump. But if somebody murders somebody, they know they're there and they don't even bother picking them up. Our country is sick. It's sick, and we have to change it, and we're going to change it fast. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families and their home countries immediately. And we will restore the Trump travel ban to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country, as I did with great success. You saw that for 4 years. We had no problem. To stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting Republicans, conservatives, and people of faith. And they do that. I'll tell you, they're really after the Catholics. They are after the Catholic Church. It's incredible. I don't know how many Catholics are in, but they are after the Catholic Church. They're after parents, school boards. It's unbelievable. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA and AG in America for their illegal, racist, in reverse enforcement of the law. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. It's unbelievable. And my administration, and we did many of these things, many of these things were put back into effect because many of these things were done. My administration will strictly enforce this summer's Supreme Court decision to move our country forward with a merit-based system of education. Isn't that a nice system of education? Merit-based. Did you ever think you were going to see that? Supreme Court upheld merit-based. We didn't have merit-based. In addition, I will return power to the parents of our country. Who would have thought we would have ever had to say that? Can you imagine that? We will return power to parents. Of course you want to return the power, especially when it comes to schools. You will have your power back. I will close the Department of Education and move all education back to the states where it belongs. We were going to do that. We were ready. And then we had the COVID. And think of it. We're at the bottom of every list. We spend more money per pupil, sometimes 2 and 3 times what other countries that are very top on the list spend. But we spend more money on education per pupil by far than any other country. And yet we're at the bottom of all the lists. It's terrible. So we're going to move it back so that, Kay, you can handle it. Can you handle it? Are you okay with that? Good. Lieutenant Governor, you're going to help her out a little bit? Yes. Good. We're going to move it back to the states because in Alabama, you'll run a great system and the states will run a great system. And if they don't, those people won't be around very long, but that's where it's going to be. The states are going to run education. By the way, the government will save massive amounts of money, and the states will do a phenomenal job. Some states will do unbelievably, some won't do as well, but it's more pinpointed, it's local, the parents are more involved, and it'll make the biggest difference. It'll be the greatest thing ever to happen to education in the United States. And I will keep men out of women's sports. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. You see some of the records that are being broken? Weightlifting records are being shattered. Records that stood for 18 years are being shattered. It's a disgrace, and it's a very bad thing and very demeaning to women. We're going to end that immediately. I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Now, think of that. Child sexual mutilation. Could you imagine 15 years ago saying, we're going to stop child sexual mutilation? That you even have to say a thing like that. It's not even believable, but we do. Because we have a sick country, and in a way it's a sick world, and we're going to stop it. We'll be the first. We're going to stop it. We're going to stop it cold. I will also restore the Trump ban on transgender in the military. We had a ban. We had a ban, and the ban was immediately lifted like 24 hours after this incompetent fool got elected. Just as I did for 4 years, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. Second Amendment, your guns are going to be protected. And I will fully secure our elections. Our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. Very simple. But until then, Republicans must compete. We must win. We have to compete and we have to win. But we're going to get back to the old system. You know, France had 36 million votes fairly recently. They had an election. They had mail-in ballots for a long period of time, and they realized they were all rigged. It was all rigged. So they went back to paper ballots. They had 36 million votes. It was all over by 10 o'clock in the evening. They had a winner. They had a loser. Everybody went home, and a lot of people were happy, and a lot of people weren't, but there was no protest. There was no anything. They felt there was a fair election, and they feel very happy with what they did. This is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition, a truly destructive and dangerous coalition. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard based on what's happening right now. And that'll be the greatest defeat for our country in 200 years if we lose the world standard on currency. It won't happen with me, not even a little bit of a chance, just like Russia would never have invaded Ukraine and China would not be even thinking about going into Taiwan, not even thinking about it. And I would talk to President Xi and I would talk to President Putin. Zero chance. They knew you can't do that. And we would have left Afghanistan with dignity and strength instead of our greatest embarrassment in all of history. Leaving behind $85 billion worth of the best, most beautiful military equipment that I bought. The best equipment. 13 dead soldiers, many horrifically wounded. American citizens are still there. Nobody even knows what's happening with them. If you took the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as crooked Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. He's a crooked guy. Crooked guy. You know, I never hit him this hard. If you followed me, and many of you have, I never hit him that hard because I had to respect the office of the president, the office of the presidency. And I did. I had great respect. So I'd talk as a politician would talk about somebody, but I never hit him this hard. But when they indicted their political opponent, and they did that, I said, now the gloves are off. He is a crooked, incompetent thief. And he shouldn't be allowed to be the president. And the Republicans better get tough and they better get smart, because most of them look like a bunch of weak jerks right now. And you got to get tough and smart, and you have to fight fire with fire. You can't allow this to go on. So I